And it's like, this guy's a lawmaker who's appropriating money to a military committing genocide, and that's cool? It's not cool.
No.
And let's just be honest. That is much worse than anything Nick Fuentes has said, period. Yeah, we just have to kill every Palestinian because they're Palestinian so we can defend Western civilization. I'm like, no. You're the enemy of Western civilization.
Tucker Carlson strikes back against the GOP cancel campaign against him for daring to talk to no guy Nick Fuentes. And in this clip, he explains why the pro-Israel Zionists are actually the enemies of Western civilization for their views and where they're trying to drag American society and American politics to. So let's get into it. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. This one's a firecracker, man.
It's like, this is what they say. They go to the worst possible place to paint anything you do as an attempt, I think, to delegitimize you. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about why Nick Fuentes.
I interviewed Fuentes. Well, I should just give the publicly available information on this, which is that I was in an extremely personal and bitter war with Fuentes like 3 weeks ago. It mostly wasn't public, but Fuentes was attacking my father. A subject I have like literally no sense of humor. My father passed in March, and was really kind of the patriarch. Not kind of, he was the patriarch in our family and a hero to every person in our family. And some of what Fuentes was saying about my dad was, true, okay, which made it worse. But I was just so offended by that I couldn't deal with it, and my son and my wife. So, I was really mad at Fuentes, and then I did an interview, and just out of I was so mad it popped out, and I attacked Nick Fuentes in this interview. This was last month, I think, ish. And then I got all these calls from people saying, do you know anything about, I don't know anything really about Nick Fuentes, other than he's attacking my dad, my wife, and my son. And it was like, actually, Nick Fuentes is the single most influential commentator among young men. Period.
He's got 5 million subscribers on Rumble.
It's bonkers. And I didn't know any of it. I mean, I'm 56, so I'll just state the obvious,
He's not our demo.
My oldest child is 31, much older than Nick Fuentes. So I kind of missed a lot of this stuff. I pride myself on not missing things. I totally missed that. Really? And then it turns out that, he has no advertisers. They've been trying to cancel him since freshman year in college. Ben Shapiro actually tried to shut him down freshman year in college, and it didn't work. In fact, it had the opposite effect. So I was like, and so then I talked to a million people I know, maybe I should interview Nick Fuentes to hear what is this actually? And so I decided to do it. And I thought it would be controversial. I didn't think it would become what it's become. I'm not gonna offer any defense other than, it's kind of interesting. I've interviewed I'm doing this for 34 years. So I've interviewed everybody, most of them bad people, to be honest.
Right.
I interviewed Liberian militia leaders during the Liberian Civil War, all cannibals, every single one of them. It tasted human flesh.
Just think about that. I mean, Tucker's fiercest detractors will have people like Netanyahu on their programs, throwing him softballs, doubling down on Hasbara propaganda to support Israel. But this guy is uniquely beyond the pale. You can't sit down with him because of impure thoughts. Well, what about the people close to the levers of power that have killed hundreds of thousands and sometimes millions of people? And by the way, that is the Bush-Cheney legacy, killing 5 million people worldwide for the war on terror. I think a majority of that during their 2 terms in the presidency. That is what we're dealing with here. So you can see that the mainstream establishment right wing just accepts most of the liberal establishment's precedents and premises about who you can and cannot talk to. It's never one of these, trans rights activists that Ben Shapiro or someone else in his ilk may have debated, or this communist or a Maoist or someone debating economic theory that, has big impacts on people's lives, especially those that were in power. No, it's this one guy that you don't like his opinions on, that happens to have become a thing that you have to deal with now in this new age of media, whether you like it or not.
And first of all, I kind of like them. I'm just being honest, because I like people. Don't agree with cannibalism. Pretty opposed.
For the record.
But I'm just that way. I just like people, and the closer, if you can smell someone and talk to them, it's hard to not see the human in the person, even if he's a cannibal.
Did the Liberian cannibal smell good?
Kind of rank, to be honest.
Yeah.
Actually, during the interview, I'll never forget
chicken.
this. I was in Africa to cover the Civil War, and I'm interviewing this guy, and he was like, you know, Commander Butt Naked, or it wasn't actually Commander Butt Naked, who was a famous militia leader during that war, who fought, needless to say, butt naked. But I'm interviewing this guy, and his cell phone goes off, and it's the Woody Woodpecker theme song. Da 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 da. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're human. It was like hilarious. Anyway, the point is, none of those were controversial. Like, I interview people who are hated, and in some cases, like, demonstrably evil, and I ask them, why did you do that? And what, you know, what's your account of yourself? Like, tell me who you are. What do you believe?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there's countless serial killers interviewed by people that are popular now, have major YouTube shows like Piers Morgan. He had a show called I Am a Killer with like 3 seasons of just interviewing serial killers, by the way. And, you know, no flack there. This is the unique thing because it deals with the U.S. relationship with Israel. It's the third rail. It's the thing that you're not allowed to touch. And they don't like Tucker specifically because he's been critical of Israel over the last 2 years. His views haven't really changed on any other thing. So you can see why this GOP civil war is playing out. It's people like Ben Shapiro, Mark Levin, and Randy Fine. They're losing the grip and stranglehold they used to have on the culture and American politics in general. It's just what it is.
And that was the first thing I wanted to achieve with Nick Fuentes. Like, what is this? Tell me. You know, I'll give you 2 hours. I have only watched your clips for like a minute long. I want to hear, like, why don't you describe what you think? Because I think that's the small role that I play, which is to get documentary evidence of people describing what they think. I did it with Putin. I'll probably do it with every other bad person in the world because I'm interested. Not because I agree with him, because I think it's interesting. And second, I wanted to say something very specific to Nick Fuentes, and it's this, and I said it, which is I think it's totally legitimate to criticize any foreign country, from Belgium to Congo to Israel, because they're foreign countries.
Yes.
And I'll never give up
Amen.
that right. In fact, it's an obligation, I would say, and to be reasonable about it, and not, you know, but what's in America's interest? Totally legitimate. It is totally illegitimate and very specifically unchristian to attack people for their DNA. Like, I hate this group.
You wanted him to hear that.
We all have to hear that. And because that is the basis of Western civilization.
Yeah, and notice that his detractors won't play that clip, by the way. His pushback on that and reiterating what he did in that interview, which they didn't watch, by the way, because he did that. He said in no uncertain terms, it's unchristian to, you know, blame the atrocities of Israel's government and the stranglehold the Zionists have on U.S. political system on an ethnic background, on Judaism in general, which Nick Fuentes said that he believes like these atrocities at their root are caused by Judaism. Well, he said, no, that's unchristian, and we should never accept that view, not only because so many of the people culpable in this were Christian Zionists or atheist Zionists that pushed for this, and were particularly close to the levers of power, by the way, the closest, like Bush and Cheney and Wolfowitz, or not Wolfowitz, Bush and Cheney and Lindsey Graham and some other Christian Zionists that push this too, but because some of the best critics of Israel are Jewish. He named Jeffrey Sachs in that interview. So he did push back. The Zionists won't tell that tale because the narrative of him being an anti-Semite is more important to them than the truth. They want to push that. And no one's buying it, thankfully so. The metrics and ratings and YouTube views show that very clearly that people aren't accepting that.
Western civilization is derived from the New Testament. It is based on Christian ethics. And the core difference between the West and the rest of the world, not just Israel, but every other country, is that we don't believe in collective punishment because we don't believe in blood guilt. We don't believe that you are born guilty, and we also don't believe that you're born virtuous. We believe that God created every person as an individual. God did not create communities. Every woman gives birth to a human being, and every person has the spark of God inside him. I mean, that's what we believe as Christians. And every person has the possibility of redemption. And in my religion, the great human hero, in Christianity, Jesus is God in human form. But the great human hero in the New Testament is its primary author, Paul, who was Saul of Tarsus, who was the primary persecutor as a Pharisee of Christians. He was murdering Christians. He was Jewish, by the way, so like everyone in the New Testament, but he was on the way to go murder more Christians, that he met Jesus, and then he became the great evangelist of our faith and wrote the majority of the New Testament. So like, he's my personal hero, but
Yeah, probably greatest redemption arc in history, and if you're saying that there's no possible redemption in this kid, that's just wrong too. That's anti-Christian too, and it's not just anti-Christian, it's anti-logic and anti-reason. If you're saying that we just don't have to deal with the biggest commentator, the biggest influencer when it comes to young men, as they talked about, he does have an insane Rumble following. If he wasn't banned from YouTube, he would have an insane YouTube following. To say that we just don't have to deal with him because we don't like his views on this, it's just indistinguishable from the tactics that the liberal establishment wokesters use, that, you know, Ben Shapiro and people like Dave Rubin rightly mocked for those views, but now they're just adopting, co-opting that strategy and retuning it and using it again. That's exactly what they're doing here. The desperation's palpable, man, because this Israel first mentality just isn't going to linger that much longer, and I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
He's also living testament to the truth about people, which is each one of us was born as an individual, and we will face God alone at the end to account for our lives. And along the way, there is always the possibility that no matter what your genes are, what you look like, or what your religion is, that you can change and that you can be saved by Jesus. That is Christianity in 3 sentences. And so that is reflected, even for people who aren't Christians, that is reflected in an ethical framework and a legal code that is the only truly unusual and great thing about the West, which is we do not punish the innocent. We only punish the guilty. We do not, you commit a crime, we don't throw your kids in jail. We don't execute your cousins. We don't commit genocide against your whole tribe. We punish you because you did it.
Yeah, we don't support genocides being enacted by Israel, by the way, on the American taxpayer dollar, by the way. And he's right about Christianity. We are called to account for our sins and what we did on earth. That's in Romans 14:12, and it's also in 2 Corinthians 5:10. I know not everyone watching this is Christian, but it's hard for me to believe that Christians could support this campaign to just say this guy is uniquely irredeemable. I'm sorry, it's not the case. And it's not I need to be more careful about doing that to neocons, because that's, you know, what I talk about a lot, that, you know, these people are just purely evil. Well, I hope there is a redemption arc to some of them that I think that of, and then I'll have to eat crow, so I have to be put in my place on this too. That's consistency, or at least I look at it as that, and I have to be more consistent on that too.
We treat each person as an individual. That is Western civilization. That's a Christian understanding. It does not derive from any other religion. Christianity alone, unique, makes that claim. And that's the basis of our justice system, which, again, even non-Christians appreciate. That's why they move here, because it's self-evidently more humane. That's where the idea of human rights come from. They're not collective rights. It's not that your tribe has rights and his tribe doesn't. It's you as an individual have rights.
That's exactly right, and no one can claim to be for minority rights unless they're for the rights of the individual, because the individual's the smallest minority on earth. I bastardized it, but that's essentially an Ayn Rand quote. I don't always agree with Ayn Rand either, but that's an amazing quote. I mean, how can you deny that? So Tucker's right, you don't inherit the guilt or the virtue of your father, and you shouldn't be treated that way by the political system, by the justice system. Society is organized by individuals, and using identity politics to just scorn, you know, a whole ethnicity or a whole race or a whole religion for the doings of individuals is just wrong. I don't care if you're on the left or right on that. It is just wrong, and this was a focal point of their differences in that interview. Again, the Zionists will never tell you this, but it was a big part of it. Same with the debate, or not even debate, same with the interview with Dave Smith. He pushed back on that too, and Dave Smith isn't even a Christian. He comes at it from a slightly different direction. He believes in God, but he doesn't believe that's right either, because, again, it's just a large swath being painted where there is no brush to paint that swath, because it should be based on individuals.
And that idea is not only being challenged in our country, it's being disregarded. It's disregarded in DEI, it's disregarded in affirmative action. Identity politics is a refutation of that idea. We are awarding some people something because of how they were born and hurting others for the same reason. That is anti-Western, it's evil, and it leads, in the end, inexorably to genocide. That is the root idea behind what happened in Europe in the 40s under the Nazis. It's the root idea behind what happened in Rwanda in 1994. It's the root idea, just saying, behind what's happening in Gaza right now, where it's like, we're going to kill the kids too. We don't care. And we're going to, by the way, move everyone out because they're a people that is fundamentally opposed to us.
Yeah, Zionism is Jewish supremacy in its most rigid form. Not all Zionists believe in killing, but it sure seems like the ruling Likud party does, Smotrich does, Katz does, Ben-Gvir does, Netanyahu does, and we're forced to pay for it, by the way. And they'll just make excuses. They're human shields, or, it's all Hamas, even though it's at least 20,000 children that they've slaughtered over there, with no excuses for other than, we had to kill them to get to the bad guys. It wouldn't fly. It wouldn't fly anywhere. It would not fly in the United States. You take kidnapped hostages to a hospital, and you have like 20 of them, and there's 3 Hamas, and you drop a bomb on those 3 Hamas and justify that? They're just human shields. Nothing to see here. Doesn't fly. Does not fly, more and more so for Americans.
Yeah, well, I'm not for that. Sorry, because that's not the Western understanding of justice. We punish the guilty alone. We do not punish the innocent. Period. And that's not racism. And in fact, it's the answer to racism. It's the answer to anti-Semitism. It's why anti-Semitism is wrong. It's why racism is wrong. No, you're not better than me. No, you're not worse than me because of how you were born. You're the same as me because we were both created by God. Period. So the whole idea of thinking of people as members of tribes, any tribe, including my tribe, is prima facie immoral. And yet, it is the operating idea behind so much of our politics. And I reject it. I reject it when it manifests as anti-Semitism. I reject it when it manifests as anti-white racism, which has been pretty common. I know we're not supposed to say it, but it's real. But I'm not mad about that just because my kids are white, which they are. I'm mad about that because the idea is immoral, it's anti-Christian, and that is the destruction of the West. And so when I see these people like, we're defending Western, when Mark Levin's like, we're defending Western civilization, or Randy Fine, who's like, yeah, we just have to kill every Palestinian because they're Palestinian so we can defend Western civilization. I'm like, no. You are the enemy of Western civilization because collective punishment is the enemy of Western civilization.
Amen. This is so true, man. He is on fire. This is absolutely true. I mean, people like Randy Fine and Ben Shapiro and Mark Levin and Lindsey Graham, they're always acting and talking as if there's a new Holocaust just around the corner in the United States. But at the same time, they do not acknowledge and, in fact, deny the Holocaust taking place in Gaza. And they want to call him the most dangerous anti-Semite in the country. That's what Randy Fine did. He said Tucker Carlson, of all people, is leading a new Hitler Youth movement for having the reasonable opinion here that you can't paint a broad brush upon a people. And it's projection purely, man, to say this about critics of Israel when your ideology is based on greater Israel, expanding Israel's borders and wiping out the Palestinians in Gaza to do that, justifying it along the way, doubling down on every single one of Israel's atrocities the last 2 years, banking on the fact that you can just support a new war with Iran for Israel and Americans won't notice. No, I'm sorry. That's barbaric, and Tucker's totally right about this.
Period.
Wow.
That's what I wanted to say, and I said it, and they called me a Nazi, and I'm like, actually, I hate the Nazis for that specific reason.
But wait, what I hear you saying, sort of, is that you wanted to reach him. You wanted him.
Of course I want to reach him and everyone watching.
But were you trying to help him in a way?
I want to tell the truth as I understand it with the ever-present knowledge that I'm kind of a buffoon and I'm often wrong. I supported the Iraq War. I remind myself of that every single day. I've made a ton of mistakes, a ton of errors and judgments. I've been carried away by enthusiasm and particularly by anger many times in my life. So with that knowledge, knowing that I am imperfect and I don't always possess the truth, okay? You always have to remember that because I'm not God. I still want to tell the truth as clearly and completely as I can in every venue, in every conversation, as fearlessly and without shame as I possibly can. And that's why Nazi Week doesn't bother me anymore, because I'm not a Nazi.
Right on, and I think that just last statement by Tucker Carlson shows why he's so popular. More than any of his political stances, or just in addition to that, being ancillary to the reasons why so many Americans love him and watch him, is because he has humility. He confesses to wrongdoings in the past, and I hope to adopt that strategy too. I think I have tried to do that on this channel. I was once a neocon and a Zionist up until 2004. I too supported the Iraq War. It's embarrassing as hell, but I got out in these public rallies. We called them pro-American rallies, to shout down the anti-war protesters in 2003 when the Iraq War II was unfolding. And I feel humiliated for getting involved in that. And this channel is part of my penance to try to rectify my past doings. But just to say that, I think puts you in a vulnerable position to where so many people can relate, but so many people don't admit to wrongs in the past. When have you heard one of these neocons that is prominent in the news say, hey, I'm still for a empire building foreign policy, we should bomb Libya, Syria, overthrow Iran, etc., but I was wrong on the Iraq War? You barely hear it ever said from any of these people. They just don't. They don't self-correct because it's all about narrative. It's not about truth.
I'm a Christian.
Of course. So what about, I don't want to spend the whole time on this, but I am curious. The main criticism, as I understand it, has been, well, yes, platforming. They say that. I don't accept platforming as a valid objection.
When is that a verb, by the way? You take a noun and you make it into a verb and nobody says anything? As a former editor, I say no.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay.
Honestly, but as far as I know, Nick Fuentes hasn't eaten anyone. Jeffrey Dahmer ate people, and he was platformed by Diane Sawyer.
We have a sitting member of Congress. I spoke to the Speaker of the House about this today. We have a sitting member of Congress from Florida called Randy Fine, who was literally texted or put on Twitter, we should kill them all. Every single one. Someone texted a picture of a dead baby, and he laughs at it. And it's like, this guy's a lawmaker who's appropriating money to a military committing genocide, and that's cool? It's not cool.
No.
And let's just be honest. That is much worse than anything Nick Fuentes has said. Period.
Absolutely true. No question about it. And Megan's right about that. Platforming people, and you're talking to serial killers, you're talking to Jeffrey Dahmer, but somehow Nick Fuentes is beyond the pale. I don't believe that whatsoever. I have my problems with Nick. I've talked about them in various videos, but I'm sorry. Americans see right through this. You can't just keep pulling wool over our eyes to try to hide the truth on this. This is all over Israel. You're losing your grip on the American people. The American people are fed up with the Israel first mantra. It's steered us awry every single time. It never pays off for Americans. Not the overthrow of Gaddafi in Libya or the overthrow of Assad, which the U.S. participated in for like 15 years before it finally happened last year. On behalf of Israel and the Al-Qaeda emir that's now in power there, al-Jilani, known as al-Shara. Not Iraq, the 20-year occupation there. Not Somalia, the 25-year war there, where bombings are at their highest point this year compared to any other. Basically, no one's talking about it outside of antiwar.com and Dave DeCamp's great reporting on it. None of it pays off. So yeah, if you're going to be close to the levers of power, support that. And have Netanyahu on your programs to throw softballs on him. I'm sorry, I don't buy what you're saying about platforming Nick Fuentes. When you platform a genocidal maniac, you have no room to talk whatsoever. You have no room to denigrate Tucker Carlson. And I'm so glad that the backlash is so palpable here, with Americans seeing through this for really the first time, because we didn't have this new independent media to counter the prevailing Zionist narratives in the legacy media and the neocon control over it. But now we do. Now we do have different voices. Tucker Carlson's one of them, and I say protect him at all costs for telling the truth on this. And hey, I get it. There'll be some viewers of this that don't agree with Tucker Carlson on a lot. Don't agree with a lot of his social views, maybe economic views, etc. But man, if all of us dissidents can just get behind what he's saying there. And it's not for personal love of Nick Fuentes. It's for personal love of the pursuit of truth, which people like Tucker generally stand for. I'm so glad that he makes no apologies for this interview, as he shouldn't, and that he is just, slapping back at the neocon Zionists that are clutching their pearls over this, more fiercely and harder than ever, knowing that in desperation, they're just losing their grip on the American people and the Israel First creed. But what do you guys think? Do you think Tucker Carlson's right about this? Let me know down below. Is he right in what the West is, what it represents, and whether, these neocons have done far greater evils than Nick Fuentes? Let me know down below. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, also subscribe to Megyn Kelly. Don't always agree with her, but appreciated this segment. Great interview. Also, if you like this video, please consider becoming a YouTube member. You can do that by clicking the join button below. And if you do that, I'll give you access to all my videos before they go live to the general public on YouTube. Also, if you want a free copy of my first book, Compact of the Republic, click the link in the description below. It'll shoot you out to a site. Plug in your email. I'll send that to you free of charge. No obligation. And until I see you guys next time, no more war, no more debt, no more inflation, and no more empire. Peace out, guys. Catch you in the next one.